Okay, welcome to Sacred Circle. I'm Christina, and we've got some folks here joining us live. So glad to have y'all here and glad to have all of you watching the replay. I was just telling everybody here live that I'm super excited that we get to, today we're going to be using the violet flame of divine perfection, infinite perfection, for a little cleansing exercise. And that'll be kind of our grounding and centering exercise that we do. And then we're going to talk about and balance some stuff on the clairs. So the Clair senses, clairvoyance is one of the ones that most people know about the most. Clairaudience. I'll be talking about kind of 7 different ones. It depends on who you talk to, how many clairs there are, but I combine a couple into one category just to help me remember, because they mostly mirror our physical senses. We've got the 5 that mirror our physical senses, and then emotion and claircognizance, which is a clear knowing. So those are not a parallel with the 5 physical senses, but those are the ones that we use, that we usually use unconsciously or experience unconsciously at first, before we begin to understand that they are real, and that that is the way that we can communicate with each other. We can communicate with the divine. We can communicate with whatever spirit guides, and even I guess we'll just call it the dark energies that exist in our physical plane and near our physical plane. You can even experience those energies and those kinds of vibrations through those clair senses. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what they are and how they work. And I just wanted to begin talking about these, and because now is the time for us to learn how to use them more consciously, for those that haven't been, or some people have just not even been aware that we have these senses. Some of us have been actively working with them for many years, and then everything in between. I think a lot of folks have kind of become aware of it, but maybe they're not quite sure how it works, or don't have anybody to talk about about these things that they can kind of figure out for themselves, because it's a very personal experience, just like our 5 senses are very personal. The way we experience, I've learned after being married to my husband for 17 years that his eyes don't see the same things that I see, that my eyes see, and some of that is just his interests, right? Like he looks at a building, he's a builder. So if he looks at the craftsmanship in a room, he's going to see all these things that I'm not going to notice. And then, vice versa, he doesn't see things that I notice because of our focus. Really, a lot of it is because of what we're focused on, and what stands out to us. So it's a very personal experience, which is why it's really good to practice, figuring out which of these clair senses are the strongest for you. So you can start with those, use those the most intentionally, and then you'll be able to understand and experience some of the other ones that you might not have experienced yet. So that's all I'll say about that until we get a little more into it and get a little grounded and centered. So we'll just go ahead and start with our grounding and centering exercise. It is usually, when we do these, we kind of enter into a meditative state, but I don't like to call it meditation for a lot of different reasons. But since that's something that we're all familiar with, you can get into whatever your favorite meditation position is, so that you can be comfortable, but also still sitting up so that you're not too relaxed or too slip into another level of consciousness. That can definitely happen, when you lie down, and sometimes that's a purposeful place that we want to go for healing. But for this exercise and for this practice, we want to stay mostly upright. You can lean against something if that helps you be more comfortable. So we'll just start with some gratitude. So just move into that space of gratitude for whatever you can find in your life to be grateful for. There's always something, even if it's just the in-breath and the out-breath. The fact that life is still moving in your body. And so gratitude for this time and this space that we've created for ourselves, where maybe hopefully nobody's going to bother us too much while we do this self-care. Gratitude for the technology to be able to connect and to share and to experience these things together with other people that are on a similar wavelength. And just gratitude for the divine wisdom that is available to us at all times. We're not always tuned into it, but if we do consciously tune in to that divine wisdom, we can access it. Whatever that divine wisdom is for your life, it might be different than what somebody else needs to hear. So thankfully, the divine knows exactly what we need to hear, what we need to see, what we need to experience in order to move forward in our Earth School curriculum, whatever that is for each of us. So I hope this vibration of gratitude has brought you into a relaxed place. I'm just going to go ahead and intentionally let go of anything that we don't need to pay attention to for the next hour or so, knowing that when we need to pay attention to it later, it'll come back. But for now, we just want to focus in on our self-care. So we're focusing in on only the things that we need to pay attention to right now for our own self-care, for our own self-development, expansion, whatever you want to call this practice of going inward, raising self-awareness, self-discovery. And as we become more aware of our own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, vibrations, then we can begin to expand our awareness out into the world. But if we don't start with this very self-aware, centered place, then we can really get, our perceptions can be, it fucks with our perceptions. That's the best way I can put it right now. If we're not coming from a centered place. So we're going to get into that place today so that we can get more clarity about what we're seeing around us, what we're experiencing around us. And just setting those boundaries intentionally, that only information that's important for us right now is going to come through. And then you can go ahead and visualize a bubble of protection around yourself. Whatever color you choose, however that shows up for you. You might not be a visual kind of person, and so however you experience that bubble of protection, you might experience it as the feeling of a warm blanket or the feeling of a cocoon. So just intend that layer of protection. Give thanks for the ability that our creatorship is available to us to create these things for our experience. So continuing to breathe. And we're going to bring in this violet flame more intentionally. All right, so as you inhale, I'm going to give you some suggestions of some visualizations to invoke the violet flame of divine perfection. This is a energy of transmutation. So on the inhale, we're just going to imagine the sapphire blue energy or light or flame of the divine masculine coming in. And then as we exhale, we're going to see the pink energy, that pink flame of the divine feminine kind of receiving our breath. So as you in-breathe the sapphire blue, exhale and let the divine feminine energy of pink kind of move. Imagine your breath as a cyclical, a smooth circle that moves. And as that blue and pink energy of the divine masculine and the divine feminine moves, it's going to combine into that violet flame of divine perfection. So just allow yourself to breathe that circle, breathe through that blue and that pink energy, and just allow that violet to come to be, to come to exist in your space, within your body, your physical body, your energetic body, your etheric body, however you experience all these bodies. Just let this breath move through and allow this divine masculine and divine feminine to combine into this violet flame of perfection. So this is a energy of transmutation. As humans in these physical bodies and throughout human history, we have created some doozies of miscreations. We are creator beings, but we haven't always created from a place of light or from a place of divine will. We've created out of fear. We've created out of separation. And so all of these miscreations can be transmuted, and this violet flame really helps. This is an energy of transmutation. So I want you to just set this intention as you work with these energies, as you in-breathe, out-breathe, and allow the violet flame to just be in your heart space and anywhere else in your physical, emotional, etheric bodies that it shows up. And let it move through your emotional body and transmute the miscreations that are causing negative emotions in your life. Whatever comes up as you do this, just pay attention, take note, and then let it be transmuted. Let this violet fire begin to shift the beliefs that are causing fear in your life, the beliefs that are causing separation, the beliefs that are getting in the way of unity consciousness, the beliefs that are standing in the way of creating heaven on earth in your life. Whatever those are, and even if you don't get real mental or cognizant or you don't get information that you'd be easily able to describe to someone else, that's okay. Just breathe and let that violet fire work on whatever comes up. It could just be a feeling. Like sometimes when we're doing this work, it's common to feel some of the negative feelings of like nausea or anxiety or any of these feelings that don't feel good. And they just come up. Allow the violet flame to burn it away and release it. We don't always have to name every single thing, every single belief, every single miscreation. There are too many to name, as we have known all too painfully in this physical existence. So just let whichever ones are ready to heal come up and be transmuted. And so I'm just going to go through a few more invocations of this cleansing with the violet flame. So just allow these words to wash over you as you continue to breathe in, exhale into the loving arms of the Divine Feminine, and just let that pulsation, that rhythmic movement of the breath continue to fan the violet flame as it exists around you and in you. I allow my I am presence to take control of my physical, etheric, mental, and emotional bodies. I allow my I am presence to call the violet flame into action in, through, and around me. Just allow it to extend out at least 9 feet in every direction, top, bottom, side to side, and fill up your bubble. Let your bubble get a little bit bigger if it wasn't quite 9 feet away. Allow this to just expand. I allow my I am presence to charge my hands with the purifying power of the violet flame. So if you want to hold your hands up, you can do that and just allow your hands to be transformed into blazing violet suns. Cleansing and purifying. We talked about it last time, how our hands are power centers. We have minor chakras in the palms of our hands, and we're cleansing those now with that violet energy. So that what we feel, we know we can trust it. What we feel with our hands as we move energy, it's as pure as possible. And then you can use your hands if you want to start at the top of your head and pass your hands down over your body from the head to toe, touching as much of the body surface as you want, and just letting that violet flame that's burning so brightly in your hands. I'm especially feeling it in my left hand today. So just pay attention to how it's showing up. A lot of times it feels warm, but it might not. It might be a tingle, might not feel anything right now. You might see something and not feel something. You might hear something. However you're experiencing that violet flame, just allow your hands to be like magnets, pulling every electron of negativity out of your body. And you can just keep sweeping down the body. With your left hand, you can sweep down the right side of the body, the right arm, the right hand. So just with the left side, clear and cleanse the body with that violet flame that's really burning in the hands. Get the right leg, and I'll invite you to touch your right foot. So let the left hand be on the sole of the right foot, or wherever you're moved to touch. If you need to kind of shake your hands, if you feel something come out that feels intense or yucky or anything else, you can just give a shake and then come back. So any kind of discordant energy, you can just shake it off. And then when you're ready, you can use the right hand over the left side of the body. And just imagine that violet flame in your hand is like a magnet pulling out those electrons of miscreation. Sometimes we call it negativity, but really it's just the unwanted miscreations that we have inadvertently created in this physical realm. So you might be moved to stop your hand at a certain place on the body. If you need to do that, wherever you're moved, to pause. Pause and allow that magnetic energy to pull out anything that's ready to go in that category of miscreations, so that we can fully embody the divine perfection that we came here to embody. So let's do it. Well, let's do the left side again. So that'll be number 2 on the right, or sorry, I said left hand on the right side. And just each time you go across the body again, come out just a little bit and just feel into your space. So sometimes we have energetic patterns. There's lots of things that we can call these things, but they're attached to us, attached to our energetic body or our etheric body or our mental body. So just sweeping across the right side to see what we feel. Allowing the violet flame to transmute anything that you find. So I'm moving on to the right hand again on the left side. So that's going to be number 2, past number 2. And just allow all of this, whatever you're able to pull out, allow it to be transmuted in that violet flame that's surrounding your body. So we'll go left hand on the right side again. So that's number 3. And we'll just do this 4 times on each side of the body. So just going all the way from the head down through the right leg into the right foot. And then the right hand on the left side, just noticing what you notice. This reminds me of an exercise that I do a lot of times for my severely autistic child. We call it combing his aura. And so it's just a way to kind of move through the energetic bodies and bring some peace and calming. All right, so last time we'll do the left hand on the right side of the body, a little bit further out. Just notice what you notice as you feel into your energy bodies. And just still visualizing and intending that violet flame in the palm of the hand to do its work. And one more pass with the right hand over the left side. Feeling in there, whatever needs to be transmuted and healed is coming out, whether we're aware of it or not. Sometimes we can name it and sometimes we can't, and that's okay. Just let it all come out. And then we can bring the hands back together to face each other. So the palms of the hands face each other. And just visualize that violet flame flowing through our heart space and flooding the entire planet. And just affirming the beloved presence of God I am in me and in all humanity is expanding and intensifying. We'll just ask that violet flame to blaze in, through, and around every electron that makes up humanity's emotional body, mental body, etheric body, and physical vehicles. Breathing this energy, continuing to let the breath, the rhythm of the breath, keep this violet energy moving. And so we can continue to do this. We can repeat this cleansing activity anytime we need it. We can do it daily for a while if we need to. It can be a part of our daily self-care ritual. We can just do it every once in a while if we're called. Whatever works for you. And so we're just going to ask that violet flame for the benefit of all humanity to saturate our emotional bodies. And a couple of breaths as we just allow that to happen, knowing that the company of heaven is magnifying this exercise every time we do it. We're going to ask the violet flame to saturate our mental bodies, the collective mental body of humanity. This is a big one. We have so many beliefs that are just miscreations. They're just inspired by separation instead of unity consciousness. So many things in our mental space that cause fear. We're just going to forgive ourselves individually and collectively for all of these miscreations that we store in our mental bodies. We're going to ask that the violet flame saturate our etheric bodies collectively. This is the place where we might not be able to name it. It might just be a feeling. Just allow those feelings to move, all of that energy. We are not our feelings. We can let go all the ones that lower our vibration. And lastly, we're going to ask the violet flame to saturate our physical bodies, all of humanity. So that we can embody the beliefs that are supported by unity consciousness, the mental constructs that are supported by unity consciousness, the emotions that indicate that we are in alignment with unity consciousness. We want to embody all of these things and carry them with us into our day and into our walking around living. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So this can be a pretty intense experience. So I want to let you guys have a moment to write down any experiences that you've had during this grounding, centering, and cleansing that we've been doing. Anything you want to remember that feels important, you can write it down. You can also share it. Speaking it out loud is one way of grounding and embodying some of these things. Or if you have questions, if there's something that came up during the experience that you're not quite sure what to make of it. You're welcome to speak it out loud. And I want to invite, as we have these sharing times, especially, a lot of times participants in the circle will get information that is for somebody else in circle. So I want to invite you to, if you feel like you're receiving some sort of information that you need to share with the group, trust that. It can feel like fear and anxiety, because when we receive information from spirit that is to be shared, a lot of times that makes us nervous. In our lives, especially in the, let's say, our past from today backwards, a lot of times we've been given information by the Holy Spirit. Sometimes it's just for us, but sometimes it's to be shared, maybe just with one person that we're talking to. Doesn't have to be, on some big platform. But in the past, when we've shared that information, sometimes it's not well received, right? Because it triggers somebody's, low vibrational stuff that's going on with them. When we bring through high vibrational information, it can really trigger, the miscreations and the lower vibration stuff that a lot of us are wrapped up in and believe is real. So it can be, and we'll get into talking, when you have claircognizance, when you know that something is true, and then you're also moved to share it with somebody else, it can be a harrowing experience in this physical existence, because other people don't always receive it with open arms. Now, they might come back to you years later and say, that thing you said, it really bothered me, but it stuck with me. And, they worked with it for years until they finally understood the message that was there for them, whatever that is. And usually, a lot of times we don't know when we deliver this information how it's going to be received and how it really is to be used by the other person. That's not our business. Our business is just to share it. So, Brandy, you look like you're unmuted. Or do you have something to share with us?
It's really, really insignificant, nothing earth-shattering, but when we started doing the flame exercise, just like my left hand just felt it. And usually if I feel stuff, I can feel it in both hands. And I couldn't really, it was just a little bit in my right, but my left hand. And so when you said that, I was like, what does that mean? So I wanted to ask you if you thought anything significant of that, because I had it also.
So one clue can be, the left hand represents the feminine, the divine feminine. Like the left side of the body is the feminine side. Right brain, but left side of the body is the feminine side. So it could be something, what it kind of meant for me was just like that feminine side was really just coming through strongly, and I was able to feel it more. Also, we were starting with our left hand. So it kind of felt like, just for me, that it was Spirit's way of saying, okay, here, start with the left, it's strong. And then the right got stronger as I started doing the other side. So it might be different for you. There might be something in the divine feminine that you need to, look at or just be aware of. And I would say it's not insignificant at all. That seems pretty significant that you had the same experience. And I think it's great that you said it out loud, because even those things that we think are insignificant, like I was just saying, we don't know how the rest of the world might need to hear that or experience it, or just know that was a thing that happened. So, there's some body symbology. The hands are very connected to the heart chakra. So that's another, if you felt it really strongly in your left foot instead of your left hand, then I would probably say, there's something else that's more about physicality, like grounding, or, being something maybe in the feminine of your physical body, if it was in the foot. And then if it's in the hand, then I'm going to say it's more connected to the heart, it's connected to your work in the world. That's feeling pretty significant to me as I say it out loud, just remembering that I think a lot of us are needing right now to understand that the masculine way of doing things, so the right side is the masculine, it's important. It's just as important as the feminine, but because we've been so imbalanced on the masculine side and trying to do things the masculine way and accomplish with that masculine energy, that now it's time for the feminine energy to come in and do, bring balance and bring more of that feminine energy to our work in the world and to the way we do things. I mean, I don't even have to say how imbalanced has been, right? We all know, and not just the divine masculine has been, I'm losing the words today, but all I can think of is it's been fucked with. It's been fucked with in big ways that have, created this mess basically that we're living in now. And so, that's one thing I'm getting a lot about just in general, but especially, right now is our work in the world has to bring that feminine energy. And, we can't create efficiently and in a balanced way with just one kind of energy or the other. We have to have both. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Time to bring that feminine in. And it's burning now more so than the right side, just as I talked about that. So I'm going to take that as some confirmation that we're on the right track. All right. Anybody else have anything that they want to share just about that process? You definitely don't have to share, but do make note, because as we move forward, some of that experience that you just had might have to do with where we're going. So I already talked in the beginning, about the Clair senses and how we're going to work with, for our balance today, we're going to work with that, embodying, using our, telepathy is one word that we use to describe kind of this energy of, it's wireless communication, right? That we've always had, humans have always had. Because of the energy of fear and separation, we have been separated from that ability to communicate in big ways, some of us. And we have taught our children that it's not real and that it's, don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to your teacher. Don't pay attention to that feeling. Pay attention to this authority figure or to your parents or to, whatever the authority figure is. We've been told we need to listen to them instead of listening to our own inner guidance that comes through our Clair senses. So I'm going to do a screen share just to give you guys the visual aids. Most of us have heard of clairvoyance, so that just means clear seeing. It's not just about seeing into the future, it's about just seeing clearly. So sometimes clairvoyance comes to us in pictures, information. So I mentioned earlier, these systems of communication that we're talking about here, our Clair senses, are the way we can communicate with each other that way, but we can also communicate with the divine and also with lower vibrational, non-physical entities, we'll just call it. So you might get a picture that's really, a picture in your mind that creates a lot of fear in you. And so that's a way to know the source of that information. If it creates fear, then it's not of God. If you get a picture that is, that brings you into alignment with unity consciousness and love, and unconditional love, then you can understand that information is of God and is from a source that is positive, for lack of a better word, but is in your best interest, is in alignment with what God wants for you, what God believes about you, right? So I'm just going to go through these kind of quickly, because then we're going to work with them. Whichever one or ones you feel like that you have the strongest is the one that I want y'all to work with today. So information can come. Before I move on, I'll just give an example. In terms of communicating with each other, which is an important thing that we need to practice. We need to practice communicating with our divine guides, and then also with each other using this kind of wireless communication. The people that I have the strongest telepathy with in my life have been my mom, my sister, and my children. And to the point that, one time I remember opening the console of my car. I just had one kid at this time. So Houston was there. in the back seat, and I opened the console and I saw a lollipop down in the bottom. And I didn't think anything of it except like I just closed it real quick because like he hadn't had lunch and I didn't want him to know that lollipop was in there and until later. But all I did was see the lollipop, and then he was about 3 or 4 at the time. He's in the back seat. He starts asking for a lollipop, and he never did that. He never. He was one of the kids that like, he would eat candy, but it wasn't, he was fine waiting until after dinner or whatever, he wasn't a kid to just always be asking for lollipops. So it was a confirmation for me that just that visual for me transmitted to him instantly. And he started thinking about lollipops just from me seeing that. So clairaudience is the same thing, but it's hearing. So inner hearing. So sometimes it comes in the form of words, but sometimes it's songs or sounds. Trying to think of an example. But yeah, sometimes it's the still small voice of God. Sometimes it's a loud booming voice that, in times when I have asked for clear guidance, a handful of times in life, I've gotten the loud booming voice. Mostly it's more of a still small voice. And then it sometimes will just come in the form of like a song or some sort of sound. So yeah, clairsentience and clairtangence. So as you can see, I'm going through the 5 senses. The difference in these two, this is our sense of feeling, the clair parallel to our physical sense of feeling. So clairsentience is like when we get chills, sometimes you get chill bumps when you hear something and it's like, oh yeah, that information is for you. You really need to pay attention to that information. That's something that's in alignment. So that's where I would categorize, those God bumps, they call it sometimes. But it could be any kind of feeling. There are times when I felt, like we felt the energy moving through the left hand, and that kind of burning feeling or tingling feeling, that would be under clairsentience. But it could, I have one that's on my nose. So if I'm hearing something or in an experience that spirit is saying, you really need to pay attention to this, Christina, I get a little tickle on the end of my nose. And, I used to look in the mirror and see like, what is going on? Is there a bug on me? What's happening? Because it would keep coming back and it would keep, tickling my nose until I paid attention to what the thing was. And then clairtangence is in the same category as feeling, because that's where, if you've ever seen like the things where a psychic might help with a crime and like they'll take the object that belonged to the person and they're able to touch that thing and get information. So that would be the category of clairtangence. Also, you can do it just by touching the person too. So like if if you're doing work with somebody and you put your hands on their knee that's bothering them, you might get information just from touching like that. So that's why I put those two in the same category of feeling. And then the last 5 physical senses is smell and taste. So olfaction would be, I had this weekend. My grandmother, whenever I smell Dove soap, I know it's my grandmother, kind of coming to me and bringing me comfort or whatever. It could be confirmation of something or something like that. So Dove soap for me, is a message from my grandmother. Sometimes like smelling roses. A lot of times when people have visions of Mother Mary, they'll also smell roses. The feminine energy of the divine feminine, a lot of times roses come along with that experience. And then clairgustance. Sometimes, you can taste. It's not a physical taste because you don't have a physical food that's creating it, but you just kind of taste, your grandma's chicken soup or, whatever the thing is that it has some sort of meaning for you. So all of these things, I'll just go back, as we're using these, as we're noticing these happening, the meaning is whatever meaning you give it. So if you smell roses, it might not mean Mother Mary, it might mean something else for you because of whatever your experience has been in your life, whatever that, whatever that smell or that taste or that image, that visual image means to you is part of the message. So just like dream interpretation, once you have interpreted it correctly, you know that you've interpreted that symbol correctly. So 2 more clear senses, and really emotion. I kind of feel like that's a bridge between our physical senses and our clear senses. Emotion it's kind of like a gauge. So, I've shared often, and I know y'all have seen the vibrational scale where, we have all the different emotions, from 0 to 1,000. David Hawkins did the one that goes from 0 to 1,000. And then there are some other ones out there that just kind of show relative, vibration of emotions. But all of our emotions are communicating something to us. So if we're feeling those discordant, unwanted emotions, then it means that our focus is on something that is not in alignment with our with divine will for us. So it could be that you're looking at, pictures of starving children, right? And you feel that negative emotion. And what all that negative emotion means is that God is telling you this should not be happening. This is not okay. This is not of my creation, right? This is a miscreation of humans. So that's just an example of how our emotion, but then when we look at like a perfect newborn, or a child in joy, right? And we look at that thing and we feel the joyful emotion, that is showing us this is what God wants for us. This is how it's supposed to be. So we can talk a lot about that, but just know that your emotions are part of the communication system that we have to communicate with each other, and then also communicating with the divine. And then claircognizance. So that's just a clear knowing. And so sometimes we'll use the word downloads. We'll get a download that's kind of you might have to sit and write out paragraphs and paragraphs of what it means, but it's kind of an instantaneous knowing of whatever the thing is. It might just be an instantaneous knowing of like, oh, this person you just met is not a good dude, or what, like it could just be a knowing like that that's pretty simple. Or it could be a knowing that's, a little more complex that you can flesh out and describe and kind of use the mental faculties and our cognitive abilities to describe that in a way for other people and for those in the physical realm. So those are all the ones that we're talking about today. And what I want everybody to do is pick one that they feel like is kind of your strong. And if you have 2 that are really strong, they might be kind of very intertwined. And that's okay if you want to pick 2. But the best way to learn is to start with what you already know. And start with the things that you're familiar with. And then learning happens when you create connections from what you already know to kind of the unknown and the new information. So today we're going to do a balance, and I kept muscle testing. I was trying to come up with like a general statement that we could all use, something like, I now claim my personal power and clairvoyance, or I now claim my clairvoyance as a part of my personal power. That was kind of the statement that was floating around in my head, but I kept muscle testing. Do I need to like create one that we all use? And it was a no. So that's just an example of one that you could use. But what I want everybody to do is come up with your own statement of how you need to work with this, whichever one of these you decide to use in your statement, and to claim and to own and to strengthen. We want to strengthen the one that already is pretty good, or that we're able to access pretty well. We want to strengthen that one, and then you can branch out into the other ones. But it could be something about it is safe for me to use my powers of claircognizance, or It is safe for me to trust my emotional, information that I receive. However that needs to be for you, I'm going to help you guys create your statement so that, those watching on the replay can figure out how to make their own statement. But it's whatever is stopping you. So whichever one of these skills and senses that you do have that you've been using, what has been blocking you from using it fully? What has been stopping you? Has it been fear? Has it been, not feeling safe in using those? Has it been that you don't feel confident in it? Maybe you need to do a statement about, I feel confident using, my powers of clairvoyance, or I feel confident using the claircognizance that comes to me. So I'll invite you guys to share your statements, or ask if you're having a hard time coming up with your statement. Ask what needs to happen there for some help with some different words. And I want to invite anybody that is listening. Brandy, I see you're unmuted. But, if Brenda has something that for Brandy, as Brandy talks about her thing, please, for example, feel free to share that. All right.
I'm having a hard time already with this one. I know, okay, so I'm number 7.
Okay.
And I feel like I get them, but not when I'm trying. Does that make sense? So
yep.
I can't control it. So I don't know how to exactly tap into it. So I think maybe my awareness, my openness, something.
Okay. Yeah. And, we can take what you just said. You said, I don't know how to tap into it. So just make the opposite statement. I know how to tap into my claircognizance consciously, or, intentionally. That might be the place to start, is just to use that, what you already said of what the current situation is, right? It's so common. Let me just say that first of all, it's so common that these things come through when we're not trying. And then when we start trying, it pinches it off, right? Because it's that whole trying too hard thing again, right? Okay, you were unmuted, so I thought you were going to say something else. So does that make sense, Brandy, to just use, how does that feel to use that statement?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so yeah, I easily tap into my claircognizance, in an intentional way, or when I need it. Because a lot of times what happens is we might be in a stressful situation, and we remember, oh yeah, we have this tool, we can ask spirit to help us, right? But we're still kind of so stressed that it's a little harder to receive the information. And then the information comes through maybe later when we're not so stressed and not so tense. And then sometimes it's too late, or sometimes it's, we wish it had come through earlier. But so yeah, tapping into it in an intentional way. It's easy to do it in moments of stress or something like that. That might be just another statement you could do later. So good. Thank you for saying that. That was a great example. Anybody else need help making their statement about their Clair senses and the one that you want to use? Okay, so if you haven't come up with one for yourself, you can just use that one that I said in the beginning about, I claim my power of fill in the blank, clairaudience, claircognizance, clair whatever it was. I now claim it for myself. Do you have something, Brenda?
Yeah, it's funny, Tina, because I was thinking about these topics just today. I was like, am I losing my powers of, powers of clairvoyance or all of the other ones? Because I was so sensitive to them. I used to feel, I can really, you know me. It's like I can see the clear pictures of, what it can be, or I can feel what's going on. But then in the last weeks, it's like I lost them. I don't know what's going on. And now we're having these, and it's like, you know, and today I was thinking about it, and I was like, should I do some cleansing, clearing about all of this?
Oh, man. Love it. The synchronicity is so powerful. So, yeah. So you can even just do a statement on this whole idea, right? Like, we call it supernatural powers, but it's natural powers. These are natural God-given senses that we have. We have way more than 5 senses, right? So you can call it supernatural senses if you want, because that's the kind of the category we have this in, like in the mental construct. But, you know, maybe that's a way to do a balance is, you know, I claim these powers as natural. I claim these as, you know, my divine birthright. Or, you know, and let me just say, Brenda, that is a common experience too, of being real sensitive to these kind of things, and then going through a period where it's, you know, either you don't feel it coming through or you're questioning it and doubting it, you know. So there's a statement, like if you're questioning it and doubting it, it's, I'm confident in my powers of, you know, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times this comes right before a period of like up-leveling into even more sensitivity of these things. So, you know, just like when children are getting ready to grow and getting ready to mature, they often have a regression right before that, you know, right before they make a big jump to their next level of maturity or their next level of growth. So it's totally normal, totally expected for you to have these experiences where, like, where did my powers go? You know, I can't tap into them in the way that I used to be able to. And so a lot of us are going through this period of transition where things are getting rearranged. In our belief system, things are getting rearranged. You know, in our physical world, things are getting rearranged in all the ways. So don't feel discouraged if you did have a solid connection in the past and it's, you know, it's been iffy lately. That's definitely a common thing.
Yeah, I was worrying. I was like, come on, my team of angels, where did you go? Why aren't you talking to me anymore? It's like, what's going on here?
Well, yes, and sometimes there's like an upgrade in our guidance. So like whatever guidance we had access to before was at a certain vibration, and it was, you know, it was still, there was divine wisdom coming through. You know, we also could tap into some of those negative things, and, you know, and you know, I'll just share, because you're like a lot of people, Brenda, because you're so sensitive to those things during the COVID, you've been tapped into, and found times when you've been really tapped into that fear, right? And really sensitive to that collective fear that's out there. So, you know, sometimes it can show up in, like, you know, air quotes, negative ways. And so I feel like for you, it's like you're about to move to another vibration of divine guidance where it's going to be even more pure and more clear and more loving and more, you know, unity based than even the guidance you were getting before. Right. And so sometimes as you, move into that next vibration, it's like, it's that period of silence that, you know, how when the astronauts go around, there's like that period where they can't communicate for a little bit, and then they, you know, and so we just have to go on faith, right? That astronaut is still up there and still orbiting, and he's going to come around eventually and be able to communicate again. You know, teenagers do the same thing. We have our children that, you know, communicate with us, and then they have this period where they're like on the other side of the moon where we can't communicate with them very well, you know, for a period of time until they get older and they come back, and then they, you know, you're on the same wavelength again and you can communicate. So it's the same way with spirit, right? We go through these phases in our growth and evolution where there's a little bit of silence for a bit, you know, because that reset is happening.
Yeah.
So I embrace the reset.
I believe they just communicated with me by giving me goosebumps while you were talking.
Yes. Perfect. Yes. And so, I'm ready for the new level of communication. That can be it too. You know, we can be afraid of what is going to be there when we tap in and tune in again. Once we've raised our vibration to a different level, we can't communicate with those guides in the same way that we used to, and we have to communicate with new guides, or a new wavelength of wisdom is another way to say it. And sometimes that's a little scary, because it's like more truth than we can handle sometimes. So that can be another factor. I bravely open to communicate with my next level of divine guidance, or whatever it is for you. So thank you for sharing that too, because that is a very common experience. Anybody else have anything that they want to say before we balance? Do our limit clearing. Okay. So I'm feeling like, let's muscle test and see which limit clearing process we need to do. The most appropriate way to balance these abilities and clear the limits to receiving our Clair senses with clarity is to use a twisting balance, a seated twist with the back seat reach. Okay, so there's another limit clearing process that we need to use. So that's testing week. So we're going to do the one I'll show you. It's similar to the twisting balance that a lot of you are familiar with, but instead of sitting with the legs crossed like that, you'll have them straight, and then we'll just cross like this. And the twist is like leaning in the back seat, reaching for something in the back seat of the car. So go ahead and lean back, and you're going to reach, and you really want to keep, like, this hip needs to stay down on the, so we're not doing this number, although that feels kind of good too. You might want to do that first, and then let that hip stay down so both sits bones are down on the ground, and you're reaching. And if you can bring your hand all the way down, that's fine, but you don't have to. You can just kind of feel into it where it feels, as you move your arm, you'll find a different place where it feels tight, and then breathe into it and do your statement. So we'll start out just with the feet uncrossed, everything uncrossed. Say your statement a few times, and then we'll cross it, and we'll twist this way, and then we'll cross the other way and twist that way. And again, this hip needs to stay, this sits bone needs to stay down on the ground as you move into the twist. And then we'll come back to the center, of course, at the end, and uncross everything and say the statement a few more times at the end. So it's very similar to our seated twists that we've done before, but just reaching in the back seat. So whenever y'all are ready, get your statement ready, and then come to a seat. And if you need to do this in a chair, if sitting on the floor is difficult, you can do it in the chair, and then, but just, maybe sit on the edge so you can kind of lean back and let that feeling of kind of reaching in the back seat of the car is the best way I know to describe that. Okay. So you can have the palms of the hands face each other, or you can just have the palms face up, opening to receive in a very open body position. And just take a few breaths as you say your statement. You can say it out loud or silently here at the beginning. All right, so we just need to say it a few times to get the statement kind of into our minds, into our subconscious, so that we can say it. So I'm taking my right foot over my left, and then I'm turning to the right. So whichever one you cross in front, that's the side you want to turn to. All right, so first thing is really lengthen the spine. Let the arm kind of help lead the way. And then come into the twist as deeply as you can. Just find that limit, that physical limit, wherever it is today. And then inhale and say your statement. Finish the exhale. So use the breath. I now claim my natural powers of clairvoyance. I now claim my natural powers of clairvoyance. I now claim my natural powers of clairvoyance. So a few more times, say it silently, inhaling, and then say the statement. And whenever you're ready, go to the other side. So remember to switch the cross of the legs before you switch sides. Using the breath. I now claim my natural powers of clairvoyance. I now claim the natural powers of clairvoyance. Oh. I now claim my natural powers of clairvoyance. So whenever you've done both sides, just uncross everything and then bring the hands, the palms of the hands together, either in prayer position or just fingertips together. And say your statement a few more times here, as many more times as you need to. So when you feel like this process is complete, you can come back to a normal seated position. And I'll invite you guys to write down anything that you want to remember about the process and or share. And while we're waiting on everybody to kind of finish up, I'll just share an experience I had, which was kind of weird. Unusual, I should say. So I've had back problems and problems with inflammation since I was 17 years old, and that's what prompted me to learn yoga and prompted me to learn all these physical poses to help my physical body heal. And so I've done a lot of twists. Every day I twist a lot. I do it in my yoga practice, but also just randomly during the day I'll do twists to, and a lot of times I get pops, you know, like from a chiropractic adjustment, kind of realignment. But I just got more pops up and down my spine than I've ever had in a single twist, just on the left side. The right side, I just had one or two, which is kind of normal. You know, each twist I do, I might get one or two kind of relief pops where I get some alignment. But when I just did the left side, it was up and down my spine. Like, it was like 10 chiropractic adjustments. You know, so there was something moving, something going on there with the left side. So I'll be interested to see how my experience changes after all of that movement that I just got, and see what it all means, which I won't know until I move forward. Anybody else have anything they want to share?
I just realized something also. So, well, during my practice, so my statement was, I'm bravely open to the next level of communication with my guide. And during the practice, I had like the throat chakra clearing. And then I just got a realization, because so I was like, you weren't aware that they were talking to you. And now I got like, oh my God, on Friday, when I found out that I was about to start again the 9-to-5 job full time, I got like nausea and a knot in my stomach, and I felt really awful. And on Monday morning, I felt that nausea as soon as I woke up. And on Monday, after just 1 hour and a half of working, I started having this headache. And the more, like after lunch, it got worse and worse. I had the worst headache of my life. I was crying, and I felt like vomiting from the pain that I had in my head. And it's like, Brenda, they are communicating with you. That's not your job at all. It's like, it's time for you to take that step forward to the next level.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's another thing that I was thinking, but I didn't say out loud, is that a lot of times they are communicating with us, but we're not aware of it, or we're not decoding it properly, right? So like that can be a thing too. Absolutely. And so you just got that claircognizance.
Yes.
Of the kind of all the pieces came together for you, right?
Yeah.
So that you understand, oh, this emotion and this feeling and this physical feeling, right? This energy is all energy, right? The nausea is all energy. The headaches is energy. It's all just energy moving or not moving. Sometimes it's because the energy is blocked, you know, which is probably what it was, is that you were blocking, you were believing something. Maybe you were believing you needed to stay in that job for a certain amount of time longer. And, you know, and so those beliefs were blocking the natural flow of life force energy. And then that can create headaches and nausea and all these yucky things. Yes. All right. Well, we're going to celebrate the change. So everybody celebrate with us that Brenda has made this change, and is, you know, the floodgates now are open for more communication and more information and figuring out what these, you know, headaches mean, and how to move into a place where you can relieve the headaches and move into beliefs that, you know, one that's coming to mind right now is, I'm always taken care of. I am always provided for. Right? Those kind of beliefs where it's your source of life force energy is not your 9-to-5 job, right? For most of us. Some of us, my husband, his job is his life purpose. He is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Now, that doesn't mean it's always easy, you know, but he is in alignment when he's there at his job. That hasn't always been the case, right? It's taken him a while of, you know, doing the different things to finally get into the place where he is in alignment and in the flow and doing what he was put here to do. So not to disparage any 9-to-5 jobs, because some of them are the right place, and sometimes they're just the right place temporarily, right? We just needed to be there for a time to learn whatever it is that we needed to learn. Thank you for sharing that, because that is a great example of how this all works. Brandy, did you have something?
Yes. When she was sharing, I got a download that the reason why I'm having trouble moving into my, I don't know, successful career, whatever, to bring in like income to support me, is because I'm trying to take something that is supposed to be just for joy and to share joy, and I'm trying to turn it into I'm trying to keep it as my career. It's been my career, but it's just, I'm getting pushed out of it basically. And I'm trying to hang on to it as my career, and I'm supposed to move on to something totally different, and I can still have this because I've been having trouble letting go of this, and it's because I need it, because it's my way of, you know, sharing joy and getting joy, but I also need to like let go of it as a full-time thing because I need to do something else.
Beautiful. Let's celebrate with Brandy, y'all. Oh my gosh, that is huge. And definitely I can relate to that a lot, because there's, you know, what worked for us in the past is not usually, for most of us, not what we need to be doing in the future, right? All the things, whether it's the coping mechanisms we used in the past, they are no longer working the way they used to. So we got to let those go. You know, a lot of us are having to let go of career stuff. And even if that career was the right thing and it was totally in alignment for you that entire time, It's like now, not so much, right? So it is hard to let go of the things that used to work, right? Because they used to work so well, and they provided for us, or they did, whatever the thing was, they kept us safe. A lot of times is what it was. So I'm going through a similar thing right now, and being called to work with the tiny house business more has been very confusing to me because I never felt that call in the way now that it's happening. I always felt the call to support my husband in whatever his alignment was, and finding his alignment, and all of those things. This is a new level of involvement that I'm being really pushed into, because of course I'm going kicking and screaming, oh no, I'm still supposed to be doing these other things that used to work for me, that were my calling in the past. So yeah, it's a thing. But congratulations on having that knowing, because once you get that clear knowing, then it is easier to let go of the old. Once you realize, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be holding on to this so tightly anymore. It's only supposed to be joy now. And then the other things, will help me find the physical support that I need, the monetary, or the food, clothing, shelter kind of stuff. It changes where that's supposed to come from. We love change, don't we? Us humans. Thank you for sharing that. So, JT and Celia, I don't know if you guys want to share, but I do want to celebrate the changes that y'all made. So if you're not wanting to share, then just give us a thumbs up and we'll celebrate. You can say your statement if you want to, and I'll muscle test just to make sure everybody's statement is strong. But a lot of us, now that you've got that claircognizance going on, whether the statement is strong or not. And you might not even need to muscle test it, but I'm just going to ask for Celia and for JT. We know Brenda's is strong, and we know Brandy's is strong. So all of you guys are feeling strong on your the limits that you just cleared. So we're going to celebrate with that energy of joy and celebration, and reminding our systems that was a wanted change. Even if it's a change that is going to lead to some, uncertainty, that uncertainty is okay and it's wanted, and sometimes it's a necessary thing to go through that uncertainty until we get to the other side of wherever it is we're going. So thanks, y'all. It's already 1:30, so we're just gonna really quickly do an energy share at the end. We won't do all 3 different kinds. We'll just do the energy of gratitude. We'll share that in our circle, and then we'll close. So if you want to, you can imagine that we're sitting physically in a circle together and our palms are touching. And you can just send out that energy of gratitude for all this time and energy that you just devoted to self-care and to leveling up and to reclaiming your personal power. So much gratitude for these beautiful, beautiful souls joining us in circle, past, present, and future. And the technology that we have to bring us together. And then I want you to switch gears and take in that energy of gratitude. Some of that is because of you. Some of that is because you have participated in these circles. That you have participated, even if you've just watched replays and you've never come to a live. You have added to the energy of this circle, the energy of these up-levelings that we do together, the energy of this limit clearing that we're able to access. Take that gratitude, some for yourself, for your contribution to the world, to the circle, and to your own life. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all for being here, whether it's live or on the replay. And I'll just share, I've had the big shift with on the left side of that clairvoyance thing, and I have been having some interesting visual experiences, we'll just call it that, as we've been moving through the end of circle. So I feel some recalibrating happening with my third eye. So I just wanted to let y'all know that it's interesting how those things come to pass. It's beautiful. I'll just say that as I'm having some beautiful visual experiences in addition to seeing your beautiful faces on the top of my screen there. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being the bright lights that you are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this work for yourself and for the world. Love you guys.